Mm, Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this weekly webinar on the first day of spring 2025. We're happy to be here with you and looking forward to a great presentation today. I'll ask you to please mute. Looks like everybody that I can see has done that. Thank you. And if you need closed captioning, of course, feel free to use the closed caption button at the bottom of your screen and use the chat feature if you have questions or comments during our time together today. I did get a note from our speaker that she may be just a couple minutes late joining us, so she asked me to do a little question and answer session with you until she gets here. And I see folks are still signing on, so that's perfect. Before I do that part, I will point your attention to my background for today says, I am celebrating World Down Syndrome Day. I'm actually a day early. It's tomorrow, March 21st. Every year is World Down Syndrome Day. And it's March 21st in part because when someone has Down syndrome, they have three rather than two copies of chromosome number 21. So someone very clever figured out that 321 would be a fun day to celebrate World Down Syndrome Day. So happy World Down Syndrome Eve to all of you today. A lot of our colleagues from the Down Syndrome program at KU ADRC will be in an event this Saturday called 321 Fit. And it's for families who have a loved one with Down syndrome. And they're going to have all kinds of activities and snacks and cool stuff. And once we get going, I may put the link here in the chat in case there's anybody on the webinar today who might be interested in that or spreading the word. I believe it's at Johnson County Community College, 12345 College Boulevard in Overland Park. I will confirm that and the time. Like I said, I'll share that link with you in the chat in a few moments. All right, let's see. I think Liz is still probably on her way. And so she asked me to do something to kick us off while she gets here. Liz is, and I'll probably say this once she joins us officially, Liz is a social worker, and it is still Social Work Month. March is Social Work Month. And I made a fairly concerted effort to have all of our speakers this month be social workers. And I believe that we achieved that because on the 6th, we had Laura Janusik, who is not a social worker, but is still a lovely person. And she talked to us about communicating with our loved ones with dementia. And she told us the one cool trick that you're probably not using. Some of you were here for that trick and you got to be here with us experimenting and got to practice that trick. If you weren't here, the recording is available online. So we'll call Laura an honorary social worker for that week. And then on the 13th, which was last week, we had Marla Bergweiger, who is not only a social worker, she has a PhD in social work. And she talked with us about cognitive stimulation therapy at St. Louis University and gave some really great information about a new intervention, non-medical intervention for folks with mild cognitive impairment or early stage dementia. So that was last week. Today we'll have Liz Conaway to talk about triggers and glimmers, and I'll hold off on just a second on that to explain more. And since we've got a little extra time here at the front end, I'll tell you that our speaker next week is a social work student. I believe she's graduating in May, so congratulations to Jackie. And I almost don't want to tell you the title of her presentation because it's just too wonderful. But I do want to tell you, so I'm going to tell you the title of Jackie's presentation that she's been working on at least the entire semester, maybe the entire school year. All of us who are social workers, when we go get our bachelor's degrees or master's degrees in social work, we have to do like a years long project. So, and Jackie has graciously agreed to share her project with us on the webinar next week. And with no further ado, the title for next week's webinar is, I feel like I should do a drum roll, Hooray for Bidets. Yes, you heard me right. We are going to talk about bidets. Next week on the webinar, Jackie has a really cool intervention for how to use bidets successfully if you are caring for someone with dementia, or I think it's okay to say, even how to use a bidet for yourself, even if you're not a caregiver. So that's pretty cool. And I'm here for the hooray for bidets rhyme anytime. When she sent me that title, I just stood up and cheered because I'm so excited. But I see Liz is here, so we'll put bidets off to the side. Liz, I saw you turn your camera on, so you can turn it back on, please. And welcome.
Yes, I will. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Kelly.
Glad to see you. Liz, I started talking about bidets and I didn't do the spring thing at all. I'm sorry.
That is
So,
okay. I
um,
think bidets are good news.
cool, cool, cool. Okay, so without any further ado, let me introduce Liz. Some of you got to see Liz about a year ago. It was around her birthday and my birthday last year. So this is how we celebrate, right, Liz? We do webinars for our birthdays. And so Liz is back with us this year to talk about triggers and glimmers. And you've probably heard the word trigger, right? It's kind of a popular thing. People are always saying they're triggered by something, right? But what about glimmers? So Liz is going to talk with us about triggers and glimmers today. And each of these things are important to pay attention to because they give us a lot of information about what's important to us, what we love or loathe, and they get us fired up and what can spark our flames. And this is such a good topic for this new season we're entering today, even if the weather doesn't necessarily feel like it. The sun is sort of out where I am, so I'll take that. Back to Liz. Most of us encounter triggers and glimmers regularly, and a lot of us might not even notice when it happens. And so Liz is going to help us become more aware of those things and how they can be useful for us. Liz is a licensed master social worker. She's got a lot of experience with older adults. I can confirm that because I met Liz. We worked together for a few years at Jewish Family Services. And she didn't tell me to say this, but I love this term that she coined. Except for, am I going to get it right, Liz? She was a fairy granddaughter, right, to a lot of her clients. She came in with her magic social worker wand and helped older adults live their best lives, and in many cases played the role of a loving granddaughter and social worker. So I can vouch for Liz's capacity to give us this presentation today. Something fun about Liz is that she's recently discovered a passion for working with children, which is a surprise to her, not a surprise for me. I think that totally tracks with what I know about Liz. And so we'll hear some more about that, I bet. And she recently learned about glimmers and is going to share her knowledge with us. Besides being an awesome social worker, Liz likes to spend her time roller skating. I've seen her at roller derby and spending time with her husband, her dogs, and her cat, and her 3-year-old nephew. Spring is one of her favorite times of year. She's excited to welcome you. I will say one more thing before I turn it over to you, Liz. I don't know if you can tell because I changed my camera. I'm wearing my glimmers today in honor of Liz's topic. The truth is, I love wearing sparkly things, and this was just a real good reason today to wear them. So, Liz, welcome. Thank you. And I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. That was a fantastic introduction. I have a presentation that I'm going to bring up
Okay, you should be
that
able to
I
share.
just, yeah.
Good. Okay.
And while I'm bringing that up, I wonder if anyone would be willing to share either a favorite spring memory or something they're looking forward to about this spring season.
While people are thinking, I will go out on a limb and say I think there's a lot of folks in Kansas City excited about March Madness and basketball, and I know that a couple of teams near and dear to our hearts are on the courts tonight. So I will just say Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Thank you to my employer and my alma mater, and good job and good luck to Mizzou as well. Am I allowed to say that? Oh well, I've done it. And good luck to all of the schools playing. We've got some comments in the chat about blooming daffodils and picking Mayflowers. I love it. Okay, Liz, sorry, I'm not taking it away from you.
No, I love it. And I know you mentioned basketball, and I've heard a lot of people talking about opening day,
Oh, that's right.
opening day at the K.
That's
That's
right.
exciting too.
It is. Yeah, the Royals, how are the Royals gonna do this year? Let's all hope for a great season, right?
Let's hope. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and then I'm going to get started officially. Share screen. Can you all see my presentation here?
Not
This
yet,
is the
Liz. I've made you a what do I call it? A co-host, so you should be able to share. Let me make sure I don't have any permissions that are interfering or
I think I
non-permissions.
just think I know how to do it now.
Okay, very good. It's coming. There it is. Well, we see some things from your screen. Yep, there it is.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you all for being patient. Technology can be a trigger for me at times. And we'll learn a little more about what that means in a moment. But I want to start by talking about glimmers. And I think that once we have an understanding of what these are, everyone is going to be able to recall a time, maybe even a time today, that they've had glimmers. And I'm going to start off by showing everyone a few pictures. And I just want you to notice what you're feeling and what you're thinking when you see these pictures come across the screen.
Liz, I turned my camera off because it was pointed out that there were two of me on the screen.
Okay.
And so I was distracted myself trying to look at myself in two places. But all these pictures are just making me smile. I haven't stopped smiling. They are really bringing some shininess, which I don't think I ever have enough of. So thank
I
you.
like what you said there. Never have enough of, because
Yes.
there's no limit to how much good feeling and joy we can have in our lives. Unfortunately, we don't always have control over how much bad feeling or how many bad events we have going on. And that's why I love so much finding glimmers, because it's something we can control and direct and find joys. Anyone else want to share what maybe they were thinking about or feeling when looking at these pictures?
Liz, I don't know if you can see the chat, but we've got someone who is a fan of puppies and kitties.
Yay, I
And
am
it's not even
too.
just me, someone else besides me. And we have someone who has said three words: love, sweet, innocent.
Aw.
I feel like those words came up when the pictures of the babies were on the screen. I'm not sure of the timing of that, but I would say that I feel that way about everything except for this very scary picture that you
Mm-hmm.
are showing right now, Liz. I know you did
Mm-hmm.
that on purpose. That
I
those
should have
birds,
given a trigger warning
yeah,
before putting this picture up on the screen, and I'll get to
yeah,
that in a moment. But
I'm
Kelly,
willing
I
to.
think you're all right for real, right?
I know everyone who knows me needs to know I'm terrified of birds, except for the jayhawk and big bird. All other birds, please, no, thank you. Unless it's chicken, then I'll eat
Okay,
chicken.
so okay, chicken. So I'm going to define a glimmer. And a glimmer is the opposite of a trigger. Glimmers are those moments in your day that make you feel joy, happiness, peace, or gratitude. And here's the great news: once you train your brain to be on the lookout for glimmers, these tiny moments will appear more and more. So, what to know about glimmers? They're the opposite of triggers. They're usually small moments of goodness or beauty, and they regulate our nervous system. And that's so important. And we're going to talk more about that. They cue safety to the survival brain. They instill peace and evoke joy. They can be internal or external. They improve mood and mental health. So they're probably things that are making you smile, making you laugh, making you feel warm inside. They help build nervous system resilience. They're a trauma recovery resource. Each day brings hundreds of glimmers to us. And noticing glimmers is a powerful healing practice that adds up over time. Becoming a glimmer seeker will change your brain and your life. So you might be thinking, well, this has got to be some wild marketing gimmick because this girl probably wants to sell me something. You know, glimmer's probably something in a bottle, but no, it's not. It's not anything that's for sale. It's not anything that I'm trying to advertise to you. Glimmers are simply everyday moments when we see, feel, touch, smell, hear things that evoke joy and things that give us a sense of peace or gratitude. Can be everything from our favorites. So I am looking out right now onto some really green grass. And that
Mm.
color green and that natural look of the grass is making me really happy. Green's one of my favorite colors. I'm excited it's spring. So this is a glimmer for me. And I'll be honest, I've seen grass plenty of other days and probably not even taken time to notice or appreciate it. Maybe most of the times I've seen it. But right now, today, I'm being really intentional about taking it in, thinking about spring and what's to come, and the hopeful feelings and the gorgeous colors. And it's making me feel more calm and peace and joyful. Can also be favorite foods, favorite songs, favorite people, places. Can be new experiences, going and trying something outside your comfort zone. I went out yesterday evening for Vietnamese coffee, boba, Vietnamese coffee and boba tea. And my friend and I tried a brown sugar matcha latte. And that was a little bit outside both of our comfort zones. But you know what? It was neat to try and we liked it. So that was a glimmer for us. So glimmers are all around, can also be happy memories. Oftentimes unexpected moments of beauty and joy. We can look for them, notice them, and revel in them. I just want to encourage everyone who's listening to the presentation right now to take a look around wherever you are, see if there's anything around you that draws in your focus or attention, whether it's a picture on your desk or something in the room that's your favorite color, or if you have a cup of your favorite hot coffee there with you, just something that brings you joy and pleasure.
Hey, Liz.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but since you paused for a moment, I will let you know that your slides, the print is really small on our screen. I think because you might be on your phone.
You are correct.
Okay, so it's good that you are giving us such detail and explaining because we all need tri or however many quadrifocals on to see them. I'll speak for myself. I need to put my glasses on to see them, and we've got a suggestion in the chat. I thought this too, so this might work if you turn your phone going the other way, if that might make it a little bit bigger. Hmm, that is a little bit bigger, I think, but sorry, I don't want to distract from
No,
the
it's okay.
presentation.
And
Um,
let me try one more thing here.
okay.
Is that better?
Oh, there you go. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm so
Okay.
glad.
Very good. And I don't know, there's a box on the screen where it was my face, but now it says KU. And it's covering some of your, yeah, can you make me go away a little bit? Not from the Zoom, but um, I don't know. We'll see. If not, that's okay. It was bigger to see. So this is just an example of triggers. See, Liz and I planned this so you could know what a trigger would feel.
Uh-huh.
And you'll be grateful for the
We
glimmer.
planned this whole thing.
You don't know how clever we are. Um, And I put in the slides or in the chat, Liz, that I could ask you maybe to send your slides by email if you would.
Oh yeah.
And then people might be able to, I can email them. So if Liz will share her slides by email, if you want to be able to read what she says, I can share those. Um, and yeah, for the people, if you're saying there's no picture now, I think Liz is working on it, trying to see if we can get back to that good information. Um, so while she works on that, I'll try to think of some glimmering thoughts. Oh, hey, we're back. I think that box that says KU is just going to be in the way, just like a Jayhawk. Um, so we will. Oh, there's a cute puppy. That's good. Oh, cute kitties. Keep it coming. Yes.
Yes. Just in case
Um,
anyone didn't have a glimmer there in the room with
there
them.
we go. There we go. So yeah, Liz, I think that box, we'll just let that stay. That's okay. And I'll shut up. And have you keep talking um, about what feels like a really calming topic for me. I think I needed this. I've had a very frenetic month. And so just hearing some ways to be calm and peaceful and think about things that bring joy, I think is so good for our brains. Our brains get a lot of wearing out and working out. Um, and so it's nice to have a moment to just stop and think about what might bring us some joy, especially when we are feeling some not joy. So, Liz, I see you working very, very fervently to get the slides back. Thank you for that.
You're so
Um,
welcome.
and let's see. Not
Okay.
sure.
I know what I'm doing.
All right. That's always a good feeling to go from what to, yep, I got this, right? And I think a lot of us recognize that feeling in our daily lives, right? Whether we're caring for someone with cognitive change, whether we are someone with cognitive change, it's important to recognize that sometimes things don't go the way we want them to, and we just take a deep breath. We let somebody step in and help us out, and then we get back to where we were. Like, see, here they come back. The triggers, not the triggers, the glimmers, except for there's a trigger, are back. So, Liz, good. It looks so much bigger. There's the warning. All right, Liz, take it
Yes.
away.
That's what I should have put up on the screen
Yeah.
before I put that picture of a bird up because I do know how Kelly feels about birds and it's not good. But I put this up here to let everyone know that I am going to get into talking about triggers now, and there's nothing too explicit that I'm going to talk about, but even thinking about triggers, triggers being, of course, things in our lives that evoke negative emotion for us, can be, it can be upsetting to folks. So just check in with yourself and look for your glimmers if starting to talk about triggers is upsetting for anyone. So here's some science of it. Um, here's some science, and I want to show you the next picture because it's the way I talk about the window of tolerance and the way I talk about polyvagal nervous system. So once upon a time, way back when, long before I was born, long before any of us were born, there were a lot more dangers in our environment. Um, I don't know why, but I always use the example of a tiger. We once upon a time, mankind, humankind, didn't have shelter, didn't have the infrastructure, the modern technology that we do now. We were more outside in makeshift shelters. So wild animals and other forces of nature posed a more serious threat. to human beings than they do these days. And because of that, our bodies our bodies and our brains developed some really important tools to help us. So ideally, normally, if you look at this diagram here that says window of tolerance, we're in this green zone in the middle. And that means that we're feeling good. We might be at rest. We're feeling like we can talk and socialize and communicate. We're not feeling particularly angry or anxious or mad. We're just kind of cool. We're calm. We're collected. But because at one time we may have had to fight a tiger, our bodies and brains learn very quickly how to get into a couple other states, one being hyperarousal and the other being hypoarousal. So hyperarousal being where your brain is shooting off adrenaline and giving you all kinds of energy and giving you what seems like superhuman strength in some examples so that you can get away from that tiger. Or the opposite of that, sort of shutting down so that you just be very still and don't give yourself away to that danger, whatever the danger is in the environment. You can hide from it. You can remain unseen to it to keep you safe. So that's kind of the explanation of why our brains and our bodies respond to triggers. Because we're built to survive and because our brains and bodies developed so long ago with a lot of built-in tools to respond to environmental threats. So why then do we still have these tools built in? Well, there are times in our lives that we might need them. For example, if someone is in a car accident or has a medical event, that might be a time where somebody needs a lot of adrenaline to get them through that event, to carry their body through that event, to help their brain firing, to keep them alert, to keep them active. This hyperarousal and this adrenaline and these brain chemicals that get us into this state of being able to do big physical things is also why and how the Royals and KU, Jayhawks, and all those basketball teams can do what they do, because they're firing up, their brains are firing up and allowing them to put a lot of energy and a lot of force into what they're doing. We do still have dangers in our environment, and if we detect danger in our environment, we know, our bodies know, our brains know that we need to be able to kick into hyperdrive and run or fight or do whatever we need to do to survive. And then I think another good example is taking care of kiddos. It takes a lot of energy, I know, for mothers, for parents, for grandparents, for caregivers of any type to be there for someone else when they're needed. So when somebody that you care about, is going through times of trouble, it can trigger this response in you so that you're able to stay alert, stay going, keep active, and do whatever they need to be cared for. I'm thinking of a time when everyone was okay, thank gosh, but my mom had to take my brother to the emergency room like at midnight, and got no sleep and still had to get us off to school and work the next day. And it was that sense of danger and kicking into that high drive of survival that allowed her to do that. So that was a whole lot of information. Just to recap, normally, ideally, we feel calm, we feel okay, we feel good. Glimmers are things that are going to help us stay in that state because they reinforce it for us. They give us little surges of joy and peace and happiness. Triggers, on the other hand, send us in the other directions. A trigger is any stimulus that causes a painful memory to resurface, can be any sensory reminder of the traumatic event, a sound, sight, smell, physical sensation, or even a time of day or season. And it really doesn't even have to be a personal memory, because some people can be triggered by things that they are afraid of, even if they've never personally interacted with. And there's even some science that says we carry fear of things that our mothers, grandmothers, grandparents, ancestors were afraid of, even without having a personal experience. We can be triggered by things because it's just woven into our biology. I'm going to pause here and ask if anyone has questions about triggers, about of triggers, or if
I
anyone has a
just
story
posted,
about being chased by a tiger.
Liz, this is Eldine Holtis. Some people know me from being on here before. And I just wanted to share with you that I had a trigger and a glimmer within the space of an hour this morning. I had a
I want to hear
call,
about them.
I had a message that I knew there was a dear friend who was terminally ill. And I had a message that he passed away last night.
Wow.
I consider that what you would call a trigger.
Yeah.
Okay, then within the hour, I had a message from a friend that I thought was no longer speaking to me. And that was the glimmer.
Wow.
All right. And the second thing that you're talking about, I'm 92 years old and I try to live my life with glimmers
Mm-hmm.
instead of triggers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I say more glimmers, fewer triggers. That's my hope for everybody. A little more about triggers. You know, it can be people, places you go, situations, things, any kind of environmental stimuli. So, what's the difference then? And this is where we talk about some of that science. You know, glimmers are bringing us to an anchored state of calmness and peace, the kind of state feels good to be in. Where on the flip side, those triggers are getting us into a survival state. With glimmers, we have an empathetic response, promotes connectivity, feelings of being validated. The triggers, on the other hand, they're getting us into those fight or flight responses. When we see glimmers, it promotes us being in our comfort and learning zone where we feel safety, coziness, security. And triggers are getting us into those panic and danger zones where we can't manage our fear and anxieties. Glimmers are micro moments of goodness. They help release the buildup of cortisol and improve our speed of return to our state of calmness, inclusion, and safety, where we all want to hang out. And then triggers remind us of past things that we've gone through or things that we're afraid of. So they're really, in a lot of ways, direct opposites of each other. So how do we keep triggers? How do we, like we said, more glimmers, fewer triggers? One thing you can do is identify triggers. If you find yourself, for some reason, every time you go a certain place, see a certain person, watch a certain thing on TV, if you start noticing, you know what? I don't feel good every time I do that. It leaves me not feeling good. It leaves me upset. It's good to know that. That's really valuable information to identify. If it's appropriate for you, you can address past traumas in therapy. If there's a particular thing that you are triggered by and it's important to you to move forward and be able to be around that, can be a really good idea to do therapy around it. And I'm going to give an example of when, for somebody, it was a really great thing to work through it in therapy. So this is a story from a therapist that I know who was a professor when I was learning social work. And he talked about, different folks that he'd worked with over the years. And he talked about working with a woman who had agoraphobia. So agoraphobia is the opposite of claustrophobia, where someone doesn't want to be out in open spaces. And it can get so bad that people don't want to leave their home, don't want to leave their room or a small space in their home. And it can be really crippling for folks, because if you think about the idea of not ever leaving your home, think about all the things you can be missing out on out in the world. So for a while, this woman was okay avoiding triggers of leaving her home. She said, I'll just deal with what I'm missing out on. It's not worth it to me. I'm staying right here at home. And then her daughter got engaged and was going to get married. And she said no. She said, I want to be at that wedding. I want to be there to see my daughter marry the love of her life, share in the joy, share in the celebration. And through therapy, she was able to get to a point slowly where she got exposure to the trigger of being in open spaces and outside. And slowly she worked through and was able to tolerate more exposure to that trigger, and was able to get to a point where she could attend her daughter's wedding. So in that example, it was really important to her to work through that trigger. And then another way to minimize triggers is to avoid them. And I'll give you an example of that, and it's an example from my personal life. My husband a few years ago took up martial arts. He likes to do jujitsu, which is a lot of wrestling on the ground. And I went to these martial arts classes with him, and after a good handful, and I gave it a good trial period, I found that I did not like doing this type of exercise. It made me feel anxious. It made me feel claustrophobic. It made me feel all kinds of bad. And I noticed myself feeling that way, not only when I was in class, doing these movements and exercises and participating in this, but that feeling would linger for me well into the evening and sometimes the next day. So finally I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go to that class that makes me feel bad. And he said, all right, I don't want you to go to it. If it's a trigger for you, if it makes you feel bad, that's something I can avoid. And that's an example too of, I informed him of what my trigger was. And he already knew. He already knew I was claustrophobic. And it can be a good idea to do that, so that if somebody sees you having a response, for example, somebody might see me having a response of being uncomfortable if I get into an elevator because I'm claustrophobic. So, people close to me already know it, but if I am getting into an elevator with other folks, I just let them know. And some people, close to me even help me avoid that trigger. They say, hey, there's stairs down the hall here, because they know that I'd rather do that than ride in the elevator. And then another thing you can do is build comforts and pleasures into your routine, seeking out more and more of those glimmers. More and more of those glimmers doesn't take away the triggers and the yucky stuff we have to deal with in day-to-day life, but it does, balance it out a little bit and give you a sense of joy and peace and satisfaction. I think of life as like a bank account, and when negative things happen, it takes from you. And when positive things happen, it deposits into your account. So the more we can build in those comforts and pleasures, the more we're filling up that bank, and the less it's going to deplete us if we run into a trigger. And this is a little information about anxiety and what I was talking about with this woman who stayed inside her house because she was so agoraphobic. And in her case, working through that was really valuable to her, because if it's something important, like that, if you avoid this triggering situation, it can actually lead to more negative feelings. It can bring short-term relief, but then be more harmful and more painful in the long run. So that's just something all of us, each of us, has to weigh out for ourselves when it comes to deciding if avoidance is going to be the right choice for us. So after learning a little bit about glimmers and triggers, what glimmers will you all seek out today? What glimmers might you look for? What glimmers might you purposefully add into your afternoon?
I don't like to dominate it, but I'm volunteering at a wellness center. My glimmers are having the people that come in to exercise, and I get to visit with them and talk to them and enlighten their day. That's a glimmer for me.
That sounds really great. And I'll bet it's a glimmer for them too.
Ooh.
Anybody have?
Yeah, Liz, we've got in the chat the equinox celebration tonight.
Ooh,
Yeah,
celebration of spring. Thank
that
goodness.
is correct. Yes, welcome spring. I have a direct message in the chat about someone not having any glimmers planned, and they say, I need to fix that. So I love that. Plans glimmering ahead, right?
Yeah,
Good idea.
I love that too. And, they can be encountered spontaneously, but it's important to be mindful and watching. Because like I said, I am near this beautiful green grass, and I don't even know how many times I've been this close to grass before and not even cared. But this time I'm really taking it in and really appreciating it. And that's what's making it a glimmer for me today.
That's right. Thanks, Liz, for the plug. Every Thursday at 2 o'clock, get your glimmer right here. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad this is on video. We could make a commercial out of that or something.
There we go. And then any questions about glimmers or triggers or anything else in the presentation?
Liz, I know you talked a lot about sort of the psychology and the anxiety and the science behind both of these things. And I think that can do a lot to make us feel like we have a handle on these things. Like if a psychologist said it, it must be true. Or if a social worker said it, it's definitely true, right? Because social
Yes,
workers always tell you the very best thing. But I
this
wonder
is true.
if, as a social worker, you have any guidance for someone who's experiencing, maybe like some of us have said, both a trigger and a glimmer in the moment, and doesn't have time to really think about all that psychology, but just wants to either get out of the trigger or walk into the glimmer, and how to sort of harness all of that in the moment?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the trigger. And the way our brains work, we are trained to think automatically, to act automatically in times of stress. So then, if we don't want to experience a trigger and have it really impact us and get us into an anxious state, what can we do? And if you can pause and try to turn up the volume on your rational brain, because your old survival brain is saying, run, fight, do something, heart beating fast, everything firing up. If you can turn up the volume on your 2025 brain, that says, hey, I'm mostly safe or I'm safe, you know, identify what's happening in the situation, identify what's stressful for you, think about how urgent it is and how important it is. Because when we get kicked into these states of hyperdrive, we do not know the difference in the moment between being stuck in traffic and it's going to make us 5 minutes late and being stuck in a cave and there's a mudslide. We don't recognize the difference. So we respond with the same stress and the same sense of urgency. But I can guarantee you being stuck in traffic and being 5 minutes late is not as urgent or as important as what your brain and body are responding, you know, not as urgent or important as your brain and body are making it out to be for you in the moment. And for the glimmers, I would say too, slow down, look around. I think every day for each of us is sure to contain some moments of beauty and joy and peace. When we get caught up in being busy and moving from one thing to the next, it's harder to recognize them, harder to see them, and harder to just take a moment and take it all in. But if we can encourage ourselves just to slow down a little bit, we can take in more of those glimmers.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Liz, thank you so much. I think my favorite webinars are the ones where we forget what time it is and we just keep talking. And so this qualifies. I hate to stop us, but I think we'll wrap up for the day. Any last questions or comments from the audience? You're welcome to speak up or use the chat. I want to make sure. Yes. Oh, who said
Yeah,
that?
Liz, as I said, I'm 92. And one of the things that's about the aging is that it seems like the triggers are greater than the glimmers and what we're doing here. And if we deal with the age, or if you are aging, and I'm 92, some of you may think that's age, but I'm trying to have fun every day. I
Love
try
it.
to look for the good things. Don't look for the bad things. Look for the good things. Emphasize on what you can do. And this is what I do. And when I counsel the people I visit with and so forth, when they say they can't do something, I will make them tell me what they can do. And
I love it.
I'll ask them which one feels better. Thinking about the one you can do other than what you can't do. And it doesn't always have to be an external trigger. I don't think they can do it inwardly.
I love that.
Yep.
If
Thank
you
you.
were a social worker, you'd be talking about strengths-based social work. We don't start with the problem or dwell on the problem. We
Right.
go for what's the good, what's the opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, you're looking for you're thinking solutions rather than problems.
Exactly.
Yep. But I'm not a social worker. I'm just an old country kid.
Even better.
Yes.
All right. Well, Liz, thank you so much. I'll turn my face back on to wrap us up. As you can see, I have a big smile on my face. This was such a lovely way to spend a Thursday afternoon. Thank you, Liz. And Liz, if you don't mind sharing your slides, I will have them. I'm really happy to share them if Liz tells us that that's okay. And the recording will be available later this afternoon. If you'd like to watch again and or share with anyone else. I told all the folks at the beginning of our session today that next week we will be saying hooray for bidets. And I can't wait to hear more. I don't know a whole lot about Jackie's findings, except for that she spent a lot of time thinking about how bidets can make day-to-day life easier for folks experiencing cognitive change and for family caregivers. So if you want to hear more about that, join us next Thursday, March 27th at 2 o'clock. You'll have more information about it in Monday's issue of the My Alliance newsletter. I did put the link in the chat for the Down syndrome event this weekend, so feel free to pass that along as you choose to. Everybody have a great World Down Syndrome Day tomorrow. I'll move back so my background can show. Have a great weekend. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Go Mizzou. May the best team win. We all know who that is. If you want the slides by email, send an email to, I'll put it in the chat, myalliance@kumc.edu. And I will share what Liz gives me to share. I think Liz had to hop off. A lot of you are hopping off, so I will hop off too. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.